Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Crystal Balint about Midnight Mass, which is streaming now on Netflix. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
We were chatting before. I mean, it's just like Netflix just has this Netflix and chills lineup, which Midnight Mass is a part of, and it's a lot of horror, a lot of thriller, a lot of amazing stuff coming out. I mean, it's the time of year for these things. I mean, what's going through your mind right now with all this stuff coming out on Netflix?
Well, I mean, I love it. I will be totally honest. I am not a big fan of horror stuff, generally speaking.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest scaredy cat there is. I usually avoid it, but I have to say, like, there's some really great shows that are like thrillers that get your blood going that I really enjoy, and obviously, Midnight Mass is one of them. And everything that Mike sort of does is fantastic like that. So I love it, and I think like Netflix is killing it for sure.
It's interesting too because I feel like Midnight Mass is one of those shows that I think bends a lot of genres and bends a lot of elements, and I think that's a Flanagan thing. I think he just does that naturally because like there is kind of that psychological aspect of it. There are the traditional scares, but there's the non-traditional scares because people are scary and everything. Have you noticed that a little bit as well? Because it kind of blends like a lot of different horror tropes, I find.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think that Mike and Trevor and the whole gang at Intrepid, they're so terrific. They're genius at doing, which is like, yeah, there's the jump scares, and yes, there's the things that are scary, the ghosts, the spiritual stuff.
Mhm.
But especially with Mass, and it also takes place in Haunting of Hill House and in Blind Manor. There's like the elements of the good and the evil in people, right?
Yep.
And really exploring that, and that there are parts of that in everybody, and no one is wholly good, no one is wholly evil, and so um, I love the psychological elements that they bring to it, and just the characters they create are so conflicted, and there's so much there's just so much juice in all of it. It's really great to unpack it all.
So without going into spoilers, I want you to tell us a little bit about your character. I mean, the stage is set when people kind of see it, really small town, a lot of craziness, a lot of uncertainty happens. New pastor comes into town and it's like, what is going on type thing. Talk a little bit about your character and what was like playing this character specifically.
Sure. So Dolly is the wife of the mayor of Crockett Island, and we're a very small community, like 127 people. So, being the mayor is not really a very
No.
big thing, but it's kind of prestigious as far as the small communities go. So she's the mayor of the small town, and she is also the mother of Lisa Scarborough, who Lisa has quite a pivotal change through the course of the show.
Oh
I
yeah.
won't any obviously talk about that, but like everyone on the island, for the most part, Dolly has been sort of hit with what she says in episode one, which is like, hit with a, big ugly stick.
Yep.
We've all suffered a number of losses of different kinds, financial losses. The fishing community was hit really hard, but our family specifically has been hit really hard because my daughter was paralyzed
Yeah.
about 6 years prior to where you meet the Scarborough. So she's really sad, and she takes great comfort in her faith, but there are very few things that sort of keep Dolly happy these days. And so the coming of this change that happens on Crockett is like so welcome for her. And she gets a lot of really great gifts along the way, but I won't spoil any of that.
For sure. And the thing about a lot of Mike Flanagan's work, and I feel like Midnight Mass is because there's so many amazing things he's done, like Doctor Sleep, love that and everything. But like you look at this, and this is like this is a slow burn, but this is, how like there are some horror films that you can go in kind of passive, just kind of watch it and not think much. This isn't the show for that. You have to, you have to like dial
No.
in and like pay attention.
Yeah, you gotta turn off your phone. You gotta make sure like nobody's knocking on the door. You have to be in this show for sure because you turn away for a second and you've missed something pivotal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's interesting too because we're doing this interview is a bit different because the show is out. People can watch it right now on Netflix. Obviously, we're not going to go into big spoilers. I find it hard to do those interviews where like I've seen it, my guests have seen it, but it's not out yet, and it's like we really don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like in metaphors and
Yeah.
everyone like they're just like fishing for something. Yeah, no, we can talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it because that's
Yeah.
the beauty of this show. It's because it's like you really want to go in fresh eyes.
So basically, you're saying we could talk about it, but we can't talk about it. That's
We
basically
can
what you're
talk
saying.
about it. Yeah, basically.
What excites you about storytelling in general? We're obviously seeing a lot of different shifts right now with where stories are going. The access globally is amazing. I mean, people, when Midnight Mass dropped on Netflix, 190 countries had access to watch the series. Is that the stuff that's surprising you right now of storytelling? Like the access, the quality is amazing, but the
Mhm.
access just blows my mind.
Well, I think what's really exciting right now, as far as film and television creation is concerned in the industry, is that not only do we have so much more access to it, there's so many different methods to make it, right? Like
Yep.
there's streaming services are everywhere. I mean, everybody has a streaming service, including the major networks that are normally only on TV. They all have their own streaming services, which just broadens their ability to make more content.
Yep.
And so what that does is it creates these fantastic opportunities for more stories to be told. We can see stories from different parts of the world. We can see stories, different viewpoints, right? It's not just like one level of storytelling. I mean, I can go on Netflix right now and watch a series from Iceland or from India or like wherever, you know what I mean? So I love that. I love that it's broadening our horizons, both uh, as a viewers, but also creatively. It makes you think, okay, what can I do, and what kinds of things can I be involved in? Which is
It
great.
actually, the global aspect of it, like I say it all the time, and I feel like I'm a broken record, but I can't get over it. Like I just can't. Like it just,
Yeah.
I can't get over it. Like I grew up. You're in Vancouver, correct?
Yes.
So I'm in Canada. I'm in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So I grew up
Mhm.
watching the same shows on CBC and PBS and YTV, right? And not knowing about, from time to time, like some other shows. But like now, like the access, it just like I always think about it. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's fantastic because you get to learn more about the world that way, right? You get to see different people's stories and different communities' stories, and I mean, it's just going to get better, hopefully.
Absolutely. Have you thought about? I mean, the show's out now, so you've had a chance to kind of soak it in and do a bit of self reflection. Like, have you thought about takeaways yet in terms of like when they watch Midnight Mass, what you're hoping the audience like takes away from it, like gets out of it, Crystal?
hmm I mean, I think that it's interesting. I saw somebody had tweeted something the other day that I noticed that I thought was really great. They said that like I think it was the final speech in the show,
Yep.
which again I won't blow anything, but there's a really beautiful speech at the very end of the show. They had said that like it had given them more in that speech than they'd done through like several years of
Oh
therapy,
wow.
which I found was really a compelling comment and compliment really to the writing and to the work of everyone involved in the project. I think it what I love about this show, what I loved about the scripts and what I loved about working on it and then now viewing it in its completed, its final form
Yep.
is it it really makes you think about these things that we probably all in some ways are thinking about, but it's like these really compelling arguments and you see kind of both sides of things and several sides of things. And what I hope people will take away from it is just having conversations. I mean,
Yep.
myself and my partner watching it because he doesn't know the show. I kept it secret for him too. We've been having really compelling conversations, and we haven't finished watching it yet. And I hope that people are having those conversations and having conversations about what it means to be human, what it means to have faith, what it means to be heartbroken, what it means to
Yep.
make mistakes. And so that's what I love about the show is it's not, yes, it's scary, and yes, there are all these lovely things that frighten people or get under people's skin, but I think what's beautiful about it is that there's these great conversations that are being had by the characters that you can then carry on to in your own life.
Absolutely. I find it also interesting you talk about like, the conversations and you talked about like real life conversations after like watching the show, like dinner like breakfast conversations or like dinner conversation. I get that. But the thing I also get from that too, what you just said, Crystal, is I find dialogue and like banter in TV shows is kind of going that direction where like every little conversation between two characters isn't just kind of like there's a purpose for it. Like there's
Yeah.
like a natural conversation between two people and it like hits hard and it's like wow. It just seemed like
Yeah.
it's two people kind of sitting at a dinner table, but it's like they're saying big like crazy things that mean a lot.
Yeah.
Like I find that do you know what I mean by that?
I do. I think so. And I think like again, taking this back, I mean, I've seen a number of series in the last little while here that have these like really powerful, like you said, conversations that are loaded and there's not a lot going on in the scene. There's just two people sitting or it's
Yep.
two people walking or what have you, but there's a ton being said. And and Mass is full of that
Yep.
because there's just these long scenes where it's just two people having a, exchanging ideas. And I think that's where like so much of the heart of the show is just people hashing it out. I think it's wonderful.
And we talked a little bit about, the fact that it has those traditional aspects of a horror film, but then it kind of sometimes kind of goes away from that a little bit and kind of recreates and does a lot of really cool things with, the horror and thriller genre as well, which I really love. But I find that's like the horror movies that scare me the most are either the ones that are like very realistic
Hmm.
and or the ones that have like characters in it, and Midnight Mass definitely has this. Again, we're not gonna go spoilers, that just like say things to other characters that just make you feel like very uncomfortable.
Totally.
Right, like
Totally. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
scares me.
Yeah. Well, what's scary about it, and I think specifically in Mass, if we're going to talk about that, is that when you find the character that says something that you either know someone or you've seen someone say something similar that is just like wrong, whether it's like something sexist or racist or derogatory or
Yeah.
whatever, right? And you just go like, "Oh my god, I know that person," or like, "I've seen that person on the street doing that," or "I've maybe been that person." I mean, I don't know, like that's an uncomfortable place to be when someone vocalizes something that's uncomfortable for you, and you're
Yeah.
like, "I can connect with that in some way." And that's disturbing. That can be really
And
like
I
a
will
horror
tell you,
thing.
I'm sure they were around, but I just was they weren't the ones that I was going to see in the theaters because they weren't once advertised. But like stories like Midnight Mass of like like these non-traditional like horror shows or like thriller, they weren't around when I was going to see horror films. Like there weren't the
Mm,
options. Like it was just like the jump scares and the slashers, which are great, right? But like that's what I was kind of used to. So when you watch things like that now, where it's completely transformed into this whole different world of like scaring people, it just blows my mind a little bit. And like Midnight Mass, I feel like is the perfect example because there's subtle little scares in there that like might make
yeah.
you like think, yeah, like it does a lot of things like that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And Mike, I think Mike worked, I mean, this is his baby, right? He's been working
Yeah.
on this for a really long time, and it's so personal to him, and it's such a he's just poured so much of himself and his soul and his story into this that he's every little twist that you feel that's deliberate.
Yeah.
And then of course there's some surprises because you can't anticipate how an audience is going to perceive it, right? So
Yeah.
we're getting interesting pings about what people are pulling away from it. So yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. Crystal, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show and chatting about Midnight Mass. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely speaking with you too, and I really hope that more people see it so we can talk about it and not have to worry about spoiling it.
Absolutely. We were able to chat about it a little bit, which is good.
A
But
little
like,
bit,
I just
yeah.
see these interviews sometimes where, and some people are very good with like the spoiler alerts and some aren't. And
Yeah.
like, I'm like afraid, like, I'm telling you, there's some good stuff on Netflix coming out this month because of Netflix and Chills. Midnight Mass is out now, but there's other stuff coming out. And it's just like, I think people just want to crush through it all and do
Totally.
marathons. So no
Totally.
spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Just go
So
log off.
it's streaming now on Netflix
It's
worldwide,
streaming
so they
now.
could check it out, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
So you can find me at Twitter at Crystal Balint, so just spelled the same way. And on Instagram, I'm on a girl named Crystal.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Popternative.com has a lot of other cool content as well. You're going to be able to catch Crystal Balint in Midnight Mass, streaming now on Netflix. Until next time, this is Crystal and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.